Welcome back to Digital Dilemmas. Thank you so much for joining us this week. This week we are going to be discussing some timely legislation that is working its way through Connecticut, is in the process of working its way potentially through Connecticut. So John, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about the bill.
Digital Dilemmas is a Lenk Media original podcast. Yeah, thanks a lot. And welcome, everybody. As Amber was saying, over the next week to 10 days, the state of Connecticut is going to be voting on the first AI legislation guidelines for artificial intelligence for businesses and citizens in the state of Connecticut. And there's only been 2 states that have done it so far, California and Illinois, and Connecticut would be the third. State Senator James Moroney is heading it up. He's done a fantastic job over the last year putting the bill together, working on both sides of the aisle. And what we're seeing is a lot of Republicans and Democrats agree on this, which is great. It doesn't seem to be too partisan. However, and we'll get to this, the governor is a little bit reticent to
Well, let's slow down. First, can we talk about what's in
it? Yeah, I can talk generally what's in it. I don't want to get into the weeds.
No, of course not.
It really focuses on AI safety. So, safety for children, safety in the classroom, safety for businesses, safety for consumers. I'll give you an example. If you are seeing a doctor and they use AI for some of their
diagnostics,
you as a citizen have a right to ask, did they use AI? And if they did, you have the right to ask for doctors or humans to interpret the findings. If you are arrested due to facial recognition, you have the right to request, can we do a double check here? If you are a child, a parent, and you have children, there's language in here to protect children from being impacted from artificial intelligence. So it really focuses on safety for citizens, number one. Number two, it gives businesses guardrails as to if you're going to use AI in the state of Connecticut or be an AI developer in the state of Connecticut, there are safety guardrails built in. And they've negotiated, over the past year or so to make sure it's not cumbersome on business and it doesn't impose extra costs per se. But it gives some guardrails as to, here's how you have to develop it and here are the rules around the safety issues. So at a high level, really, if we could have made AI regulation this wide, they brought it down to this wide and they focused on safety for consumer and rules for businesses that are not cumbersome. I'll give you a couple more examples. So it's called AI Bill, Senate Bill 2 in the state of Connecticut. It's not an overreach. It's gone through a lot of revisions. The part where it protects children from AI exploitation is something like this. There have been several cases over the last year where Connecticut students were involved in sexually explicit conversations with AI chatbots. This legislation will safeguard children online. Another piece to this is economic growth. One of the drivers, Amber, for this and for people listening is it's really important. The state of Connecticut feels that it's important to have clear AI regulations for responsible AI development, which we believe will attract business because, well, we'll get into that during the show. But it has initiatives such as there's going to be an AI academy where we train skilled workers who may have lost their jobs due to AI. If AI comes in and replaces your job, there's money put aside at this AI academy to train you in AI or to retrain you for positions that are being brought into the state of Connecticut due to a new technology. So those are a
Okay.
couple of things in it. It seems very common sense, for lack of a better phrase.
Where does it stand right now? Where is it in the process?
So the Connecticut Senate passed it 32 to 4, which is, you know, by any stretch of the imagination, that's really strong. So the Senate has passed it. My understanding right now is the House has to vote on it next, and then it will go to the governor for signature. And my understanding is a lot of the votes in the House of Representatives are dependent upon how they feel the governor. Will the governor sign it or not? If he's not going to sign it, maybe some people won't put their neck out there and sign it as well or pass it. So, really, the lobbying is going toward both state representatives and the governor, trying to, work both sides at the same time.
What are just to not play devil's advocate, but just so that we're clear, what are some of the like what would be some arguments against it?
Well, I think from the governor's perspective, he is a business person from way back. He's an entrepreneur. He's done very well for himself in that area. And I don't think a lot of businesses like regulations or legislation. I think they, just like we see nationally right now, when we talk about any um, the tax structures or regulations, Silicon Valley doesn't want any. They are they are about. I'll be frank. They want to make as much money as they can, as fast as they can, and win the game. And legislation and regulation, they believe, hampers their ability to do so. So he comes from that place where I don't like a lot of legislation and regulation around the tech industry, number one. Number two, I'm not so sure, I could be wrong, but I'm not so sure he's the kind of guy who likes to put his neck out there and upset President Trump. Now, he is a Democrat, but he is from Fairfield County. It's a very wealthy part of the country, and a lot of entrepreneurs down there. He won the race in the state of Connecticut, winning Fairfield County as a Democrat, which is a big deal. And I just get the sense, and I could be wrong, I'm not a pundit, that he doesn't want to piss off the current administration. He doesn't want to upset businesses. So I think he's a little reticent to sign this, and that's what's holding him back right now. And I think that's what's driven Senator Maroney and some others to go back to the drawing board many times in the last few months to make sure that this bill is amenable to the business world and not over restrictive. But anyway, that's where we're at with the governor.
It'd be kind of exciting to be one of the first 3 states
Well, it is a
in
big
the
deal,
union
and that's
to
why we're doing a show on this, and it's why I've offered my help in any small way I can. It would be a big deal. We have this podcast. We talk about emerging technology, safety, and legislation all the time, and how the United States is so far behind the rest of the world. And we talk about the reasons that, we just want money. We want to make as much money as we can, as fast as we can, all that. It would be a big deal for the state of Connecticut to be one of the first three in the United States to actually pass some form of AI legislation. It's a big deal in this country, and I think there. And one of the things I want to talk about on the show today, there are reasons to do this, even in a smaller package than in a perfect world. I mean, politics is politics. You have to make compromises. There are reasons that I really believe, and we talk about on the show, where if there is legislation, there is regulation. It's actually good for business, and
talk
I
to me
want.
about that. Tell me about how legislation can actually foster business growth.
Well, I think of it this way. I don't think of legislation, AI legislation, as a roadblock. I think it's more like a runway. I think it's more like Businesses can benefit from clear state level guidelines that reduce the uncertainty, that increase consumer trust, and create a level playing field. Now, if you remember, I think you were with me last year when we went down to Columbia University and I spoke to that class, and we had a panel member from JP Morgan. And we were talking about AI. And he was responsible for AI ethics, that they follow the rules at JP Morgan. And his perspective was he didn't feel like I did. He wasn't an advocate for legislation, but he was an advocate for knowing what the rules are so that I can follow them. He needed certainty. Much like, we have the discussion right now about the business world. The reason the stock market's going up and down is the business world doesn't know, like, what's the playing field? What are the rules? Tariffs one day, no tariffs the next day. I can't plan.
So let me
Whereas
ask you, sorry.
if we had laws on the books, like here's the safety laws for AI use in the state of Connecticut, businesses will know with certainty these are the rules. Okay, now I can play the game.
Is this something though that because Connecticut would be so on the forefront, so much of a pioneer, that it would hamper businesses in Connecticut in ways that businesses from other states, say Massachusetts or New York, are not?
Yeah, and I talked about that and read about that in class and with some of my peers, and I've asked the same question, like, why would a state, if it's not AI, it could be any topic, why would a state go out on a limb and pass a law, um, and other states don't, and the federal government hasn't yet? What's the benefits of that? And I did learn a lot. I went back to my college days. So here's one of the ideas, or some of the ideas I've learned. Throughout the history of the United States, a lot of the big time laws that get passed start in states.
Well,
So if a
they start in California. I mean, I can tell
Absolutely.
the
In
vast
modern
majority of
America,
them
like
start in
the last
California.
half century, California is always way ahead of everybody else. But for example, I'll give you 3 examples, and these are all states that are typically leaders. Massachusetts piloted universal health care, and it worked so well for the state of Massachusetts that Obamacare went in and studied it, and a lot of the pieces in the Massachusetts universal health care bill became pieces in Obamacare. That's an example. Another example, 40 years ago when I was in high school, California came up with new quote unquote auto emissions laws because the smog was so bad in Southern California. What ended up happening? The EPA and the federal government ended up using a lot of the pieces of the California legislation to create the new EPA and auto industry standards that we now have throughout the country.
So one could make the argument that by implementing this AI regulation, um, it would actually be giving businesses in Connecticut a leg up because they'd be ahead of what is inevitably going to be coming down the pike federally.
Correct. What I The long and short of it is that states build momentum for federal action, and that if you do business in those states that are taking the lead in any action, whether it's like Colorado led the country in cannabis laws, California just mentioned in auto emissions, and Massachusetts in healthcare. If you're doing business in that state already, you're exactly right. You have a leg up, and then that state gets to be known as a leader in that field. So, in this conversation, Connecticut could become one of the leaders in AI development and AI use, that companies would want to come into Connecticut and create jobs um, as a laboratory. Let's see if it works. Let's see what it's like building AI tools or hiring an AI workforce, or an AI piece of Google moves into Connecticut and experiments with a new workforce, creating new software with these laws. So you become
So
a leader.
let me ask you a question. Before, in another life, before you were a professor at UConn and before you worked in corporate America, you had your own company, and that was a tech company, correct?
Correct. I owned a software services company.
Would you, as the owner of a software services company, how would you have felt if you were wearing that hat? How would you feel about this legislation?
Well, I think when you have the hat of a software company, that's why I understand what Lamont says. My first gut instinct is, oh my God, more costs, more overhead, more concern. I get it. I it's a great question to ask. I felt that way. But here's what I learned as I got better at being an entrepreneur. If I felt that any regulation was common sense and was something that was going to happen eventually anyway, then I liked doing business in that arena because it was a laboratory. It gave me practice. It told me, was it as bad as I thought? Did it help? Did it hurt? And then later on, if another state or another country had similar laws, piece of cake for me, I've already done it. So there's two sides of the argument, and I understand both. But in the long run, if it is going to happen eventually because it is so common sense, like auto emissions, um, things like that, and AI ethics, emerging technology ethics, is happening all over the world. So I think it'd be kind of cool as an entrepreneur to do some business in Connecticut as a pilot, as a laboratory. That's how I would use it. That's how I would feel. I think it can attract businesses into Connecticut. I really do.
It's interesting. So
I
it could
see
be even less of a deterrent and more of a draw.
that's what I think, and that's why I got on board this whole legislative effort because if you're in Connecticut, you're right next to New York City, you're right next to Boston, and we always get outmaneuvered by both those giant cities. This is an opportunity for Connecticut to go back to its days when it was a manufacturing superpower of engines and helicopters, etc.
Bicycles.
Bicycles. The first auto industry was thought to have been started here after because of the bicycle industry. Autos were actually thought of as the next generation of bicycles. That's another podcast. Um, but yeah, it's an opportunity to differentiate ourselves from New York City and Boston, geographically located nearby, workforce, well educated in between New York and Boston. It's an opportunity for businesses to come to Connecticut as a laboratory and as a pilot to start building, delivering, and using AI ethically. And we're not going crazy. They put a lot in this bill that doesn't make sure the businesses don't get added costs more than is necessary. They don't want to really burden the companies. I get that. So here's an opportunity. Come to Connecticut. You want to be an AI developer? Come to Connecticut. You want to open up a business here and use AI? Come to Connecticut. You're going to have to use it safely. Maybe people will start looking at Connecticut, the school systems. What AI software do you use in schools? How are we doing with our kids? Are we protecting them? Is it working? People will be looking at Connecticut along with California and Illinois to see what's working, what's not working, and then the things that do work, we expand on. The things that don't work, we get rid of. But you're a leader, and businesses are attracted. Let's do some work in Connecticut and see how it goes. I, I think with this AI thing, you want to get on the bandwagon quick and be a leader. Why would we want to be a follower? We're always followers here. New York, Boston, we're right next door. We all know if you live in Connecticut how you feel about that. Here's a chance. Here's an opportunity. Don't look at it as, oh man, we're going to be encumbering our businesses. Look at it as an opportunity. Connecticut's prepared for the future. Connecticut values ethics, transparency, and talent. Connecticut values its students and its children. And also, as I was saying before, and oh, by the way, if you work at an insurance company or any company, a healthcare company, and you lose your job or your job's at risk because AI is going to take your job, part of the bill is the AI school. They give it a name. It's called, I'll look at the bill here, AI Academy. And you will be sent to the AI Academy to get trained up on how to use AI to go back to your company or get a new job.
So
There's
where,
another
oh, sorry, go
That's
on.
another experiment. Go ahead.
Where, if I'm just a regular person, which I am, um, where could I go to sort of either learn more about this, or do I call my representative and my state representative and let them know that I'm for it? What can I do as just a person?
So if you're Great question. Number of things. First, if you live in the state of Connecticut, go to their Facebook page or their website and just
Whose
in 30
website?
seconds. What?
Whose website? Whose Facebook
Your
page?
state rep
Your state
and
rep.
your
Okay. I want
what
you
is
got to break it down for us.
I'm sorry, you're right. Go to your state rep in your town, go to their website or their Facebook page or social media page, and in 30 seconds, just say, "Hey, please consider this AI legislation. I think it's important." That's it. That's one thing. Another thing you could do is if you're out on social media and you see any content about this bill, comment on it, forward it, share it, etc. What I find over the last few years is politicians respond to emails and social media. That's what moves the needle. Um, Most of the time, most people don't talk to their legislators, whether they're federal or state. But if, like we've seen with the Trump administration trying to cut taxes on the wealthy and subsequently cut services to the working class, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, you're not happy about that, and town halls are very noisy. And there's a lot of emails and there's a lot of social content. They respond to that. That moves the needle. So I would encourage people, whoever your town representative, state rep is, go to their website, go to their social media, and engage. That's all you need to do. It's that simple. Or if you want to call, call.
What's the bill called?
It is official name is called AI Bill, Senate Bill 2.
Great. So if you live in Connecticut and you want to learn a little more about what's in the bill, you can Google it and
Yeah,
theoretically
AI Bill.
AI Bill
If you
2,
just Googled AI bill or AI
Connecticut.
legislation in the state of Connecticut, it'll come right up on your
Yeah. You can educate yourself a little more if you want to learn a little more about it, what's in it, and make sure you
and
speak
also,
up.
one of the things that is cool about it is if you're one of the first 3 states to have AI legislation, eventually someday there's gonna be AI legislation federally. It's gonna be modeled after your experience here in Connecticut. I think that's pretty cool
That is cool.
because Washington listens to what happens in the states. If you look throughout the history, whether it's abortion, uh, um, auto industry, tobacco, cannabis, safety with the automobile industry, it all started with state laws. And that's what's interesting. If you just sit here and you wait for the federal government to do something, you're probably going to be waiting a long time.
Interesting.
So anyway, I think, as we wrap up, safety for children, safety for all of Connecticut's citizens as they use AI, support for Connecticut's workers as AI comes in and changes the landscape.
And a chance for Connecticut to really be on the cutting edge, to really be a
Connecticut to be a
pioneer when it
leader,
comes to artificial
right,
intelligence.
and create clarity for businesses that they can use the state as a pilot. I think it's I think it's win-win. I think Senator Maroney's done a great job of trimming it down so that it's common sense and he hasn't gone too he and the committee haven't gone,
Overboard.
extreme one way or the other. They really just want something passed that makes as many people happy as possible and solves most of the problems without causing more. So I think they've done a great job, and I hope people get out there and, that this bill passes. We'll know within 2 weeks.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you have any suggestions for topics that we could be covering or guests, or you would like to be on yourself, feel free to drop us a line at digitaldilemmas@lenk.media, and we will take it into consideration as we move forward. We are getting ready for a panel of really interesting guests coming up over the summer. So this is the last episode you guys will probably see for a while, where it's just me and John. We're going to have some really cool guests on starting next Friday, and I look forward to speaking to all of you then. Thanks so much.
All right, Digital Dilemma fans, that wraps up another episode. Thanks for tuning in and navigating our tech world with us.
Please rate us and leave a review. And if you enjoyed it, tune in next time. We'd also love it if you would send us any questions or suggest guests via email. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Digital Dilemmas is a Link Media original podcast.